Joining me now, Kevin Kiley. He is a Republican California Assemblyman. He is also the author of the book Recall Newsom, the case against America's most corrupt governor. I don't know that there's any debate about that. First of all, California. You're a Republican there, obviously a popular one, but still a Republican in the belly of the beast. What is it like to be surrounded at all times by policies you consider to be insane?
Well, it's not good because it has such a negative effect on my constituents and all Californians. I mean, when you look at what has happened in California, the state that everyone used to want to come to, where you sort of the American dream was fully realized, it's now the state that everyone seemingly wants to leave. Last year, for the first time in California's 170-year history, our population declined by 182,000 people. And so we've been on this downward spiral for quite some time. But Gavin Newsom, through his corrupt and incompetent management of our state, especially during COVID-19, has really brought us to a breaking point.
Can you explain to me what exactly he's done wrong that is so bad? Because I saw that number of people fleeing California, and I've lived in California before. I spent a lot of time there. I realize it has some crazy parts, but California, it is paradise. How do you get people to leave paradise?
Yeah, it's a great question. You have to try really hard to make California a place that people don't want to be, because we have so much to offer, the most beautiful places in the whole world. And yet you have people who have lived here their entire lives, whose family have been here for generations, who feel like they have no choice but to leave. You know, we have the highest poverty rate in the United States. We have the most homelessness by far. In fact, our unsheltered homeless population is 9 times larger than the next closest state. That's gotten much worse under Gavin Newsom. We have just about the worst public school system in the country. And during COVID-19, Gavin Newsom has put all of these problems on steroids. He shut down our schools longer than any state. We had the harshest business lockdowns. We had the worst church lockdowns. And now we're seeing the highest level of coercion and control when it comes to mask mandates, vaccine mandates, vaccine passports. And yet California also has middling public health outcomes. Other states that have actually, provided for some measure of freedom and trusted in their citizens have done better from a public health perspective as well.
I do have to ask, first of all, I want to play this little bit for you about Joe Biden, because we're going to talk about this.
Trump, I love this one. Trump likes to boast the single best measure of the economy is the stock market. I never thought that. Well, if that's true, take a look at the stock market now. It's higher than it's ever been. I guess everything's doing well. It is. Higher than it's ever been. Not only that, more people are working today than just before the pandemic started. Household wealth is up. People are buying more things. Manufacturing is up. We're on the move, but we're on the right track. We got more to do. So if you're looking for someone who's going to keep your economy going and growing, the man behind me is the guy to get it done.
The economy's doing well. Haven't you heard, Kevin? I mean, I'm looking off the coast of California at some pictures and video, and it doesn't look like it's going that well.
No, not at all. And that reminds me a lot of sort of the spin that Gavin Newsom uses. He tries to cite California's GDP or like the number of IPOs and somehow use that as evidence that California is doing great. Basically, what he's saying is that some tech billionaires have done really well, and indeed they have done well during the COVID shutdown. So let's ignore the fact that millions of Californians are living in poverty, that it's almost impossible to buy a house here, even if you work hard and do everything right. That our streets are utterly deteriorating, that crime is going up across the state. Let's ignore all of that because some tech billionaires are doing really well. What the numbers actually say is that California right now has the highest unemployment in the United States, 7.5%. It's barely budged all year. And tellingly, just a couple days ago, we had an oversight hearing for Newsom's unemployment director. And I asked her, I said, why do you think it is that California has the highest unemployment in the country? She couldn't give me a reason and said instead she would put a research team on it to look into it.
Of course, they're going to look into it. I love when they do that. Well, let me circle back.
Exactly.
I'll circle back with you right. Well, what specifically has Gavin Newsom done to make the supply chain problem better or worse? I mean, I believe it's 40%. That's the amount of goods coming in off those California ports. 40% of America's goods. We need those goods coming in. Is he helping? Is he hurting? Why aren't they coming in?
Oh, he's hurting. And by the way, the governor is now jet setting for Glasgow to participate in this
Oh.
UN climate change conference as this supply chain crisis at our ports is crippling the U.S. economy. California's ports, they're finally saying they're going to start operating 24/7. Florida's have been operating 24/7. But California has put in place a number of completely needless and often corrupt laws and regulations that have actually stood as a barrier to the efficient operation of the ports. Industry leaders have just put together a letter citing all of these and saying that the governor needs to suspend them immediately, and yet he has refused to do so. To give you one very clear example, the governor signed a couple years ago a law known as AB5, which essentially banned most forms of independent contracting. And that is the main business model for truckers, is they're independent contractors. And so this has led to a shortage of available truck drivers, which has created major bottlenecks at the ports. And yet the governor refuses to do anything to mitigate or to reverse AB5.
Hey, thanks so much for watching The First on YouTube. If you liked what you saw, go ahead and like and subscribe. You heard me. Like it, subscribe. You'll get a lot more of it and a lot more of me.